It started with the question, how is artificial intelligence going to affect our society? It's been around for over a year. The Gazette and Pikes Peak State College and also Grammarly Incorporated are tackling this question today with our town hall. And so what we're going to see today is we're going to have a conversation to add to the whole body of knowledge about how does artificial intelligence help us? How is artificial intelligence going to improve or detract from our society? So today we decided to, for the last few months, we've gathered some experts in the field. Some Colorado experts in artificial intelligence. And they're donating their time to be here today. And I think you're going to be pretty impressed. I know them personally and met with them several times over the months and built a relationship. And you're going to find out that they're really passionate about their particular fields. Their fields are going to be small business, software development, cybersecurity, and national space defense, which is really important in Colorado Springs and El Paso County. So here it is. So our administration today, basically, we're going to have 2 one-hour sessions. The first hour is going to be the panelists giving their presentation, which I think will be pretty fascinating. We'll have a 10-minute break, and there's all kinds of wonderful food outside, including a donation from a local company called Death by Cheesecake. So I will try to beat you out the door for that. And then when we come back for the second hour, it's going to be Q&A. We have 70 questions. We're kind of grouping them together. And then there's microphones, or was microphones. Oh, they're in the back. Thank you. Sorry, I couldn't see with the lights on my glasses. So we have microphones, and then we're going to basically alternate between the questions that were submitted to us and the questions that you coming from your audience, you, the audience. And you're going to ask these experts yourself. Feel free to take all the pictures you want, video, fine. All this is being recorded live on KOAA, our wonderful radio TV station here. It's going to be on our social media at Pikes Peak State College and also through Grammarly. So feel free to ask away. One administrative note, we ask you to put your cell phones on silent, please. Okay? All right. Are we ready to get going? Oh, should I just leave? Pikes Peak State College was chosen out of all the colleges to host this artificial intelligence event because, frankly, our college is the leader in the state on artificial intelligence and artificial intelligence training. Over the last 55 years, our college has evolved and always adapted. We were El Paso County Community College, we were Pikes Peak Community College, and now we're Pikes Peak State College because we have 4-year degrees. And over the last 6 years, we average about the student body of about 15,000 students. And as you can see, every year we give between 3,000 and 4,000 degrees. And every one of these is an improvement in life and makes me, a professor, just thrilled to be there at graduation. Our focus at this college, and we decided this back in January of 2023, a month after ChatGPT came out, we decided that our college is going to be the leader in closing the equity gap because we saw the potential of how this could help somebody who lives somewhere on the neurodiversity spectrum or has difficulty or English is a second language or they're a single mom, they can't get to do homework until 5 a.m. before the kids wake up or 10 p.m. when you have to kiss the kids goodnight. And so we decided that we're going to figure out how are we going to use this technology? How is Pikes Peak State going to be the leader in this? And we're working pretty hard at this. One of the greatest things that we did was we have this group here in our college called the Center for Excellence in Teaching and Learning, CETL, we call it. And we teach a lot of things for faculty. This is just for faculty to sharpen our saw, as Stephen Covey says. One of them is artificial intelligence. And we have dozens of new, and this changes every week, of new training tools for the faculty so we can bring it into the classroom. Artificial intelligence is not going to replace you. A person with artificial intelligence skills will. And so our job is to improve the skills for our college, for our students and for each other. So we're brought to you today by the Gazette. The Gazette approached us and said, hey, you guys do AI? We like AI, and let's have a Colorado conversation about it. So I would like to introduce the executive editor, Vince Bizdick, from the Gazette, and he's going to tell you about the Colorado conversation. Come on out, Vince.
Is this on, guys? It sounds like it. All right, welcome. Thanks for coming, and thanks to Dennis. Thanks to Pikes Peak State College. Thanks to our sponsors, Grammarly. Thanks to KOAA for joining us in this conversation. I'm really excited to be here. You know, one of my favorite quotes, Mark Twain quotes, is, a lie travels halfway around the world while the truth is still putting on its shoes. I think that quote kind of speaks to the risks and power of artificial intelligence in a nutshell. Just on Monday, Colorado legislatures and the state legislature started considering bills to regulate or target AI-generated content, concerned that used improperly, they could affect free and fair elections. So we did a story about this. I had one of our designers go online and find an AI image generator, and they created a cover for us of President Biden and President Trump playing soccer together, which, as far as I know, has never actually happened. So we put that on our front page to demonstrate what this technology could do. It took our designer a whole minute to create this fake image. We've already seen examples of this year. We wrote a story about a flyer a congressional candidate put out, which had him with a bunch of crowds, pictures of him with a bunch of big crowds. Those crowds never actually gathered. It was generated by AI. In a primary earlier, I believe it was in Massachusetts, there was 20,000 robocalls that came to voters with President Biden's voice, telling them not to vote. These were generated by AI. It was not actually President Biden. So we have to start having conversations about this. What's the answer? You know, new laws may be coming, but I think the best answer is always education. And that's why we're here today. Forums like this to educate people about the powers and risks of new technology are the best thing we can do. This particular forum is part of a series called Colorado Conversations that the Gazette and partners like Pikes Peak State College have been doing for a few years now to talk about the most important issues of the day and convene people like you, convene online audiences and broadcast audiences to talk about these things and learn about these things. Democracy is a participatory sport, so I appreciate you being here today for this exercise in citizenship. So let's get started. I'm going to start to introduce our panelists. They'll come out as I introduce them. First, we have Professor Nathan Roskop. He's the chair of the cybersecurity department. Thank you, Doctor. Dr. Roskop is the chair of the cybersecurity department right here at Pikes Peak State College. He has led the effort to train the latest graduates in the art and science of artificial intelligence tools to protect you and me. Thanks for being here, Doctor. Next, we have David Scott Bernstein. David is the president of the Passionate Programmer, a leader in the software development community for the past 40-plus years. David has been training Fortune 500 companies and college students the skills necessary to adapt to artificial intelligence. Thanks for being here, David.
You're very welcome. Thank you.
Next, we have Brandon Lee. Brandon is the president of Edison Apps. Since 2016, Brandon has been creating digital marketing solutions for small businesses across the United States, using technology and software automation to help small businesses bridge the gap between real world and digital data. Thanks for being here, Brandon.
Thank you.
Our final panelist is Christy Frieg. Christy is president of Alethea Software. She was born and raised at the foot of Pikes Peak, and Christy has spent decades steeped in the strong military community of Colorado Springs. For her, space domain awareness represents her contribution to the protection of our homeland and the American dream, especially for her 3 small children. Thanks for being here. Now, you've already met him, but let me give a full introduction to our moderator today, Professor Dennis Natali. He is the AI Policy Chair and Professor of Business at Pikes Peak State College. Dr. Natali has earned many titles, but he tells me his most cherished is husband, dad, and friend. After retiring from the U.S. Air Force, he has worked at this college since 2006 and has taught thousands of students, some of whom are in the room today, I understand. As the AI expert for Colorado's 13 community colleges and numerous nonprofit agencies, he ensures every discipline has the awareness to adopt AI ethically into its curriculum. So please welcome Dr. Natali.
Thank you, Vince. I think you can see the excitement here across our whole community. Everybody wants to do something about this. They want to learn. They know this is important, but we don't know how, what are the limits of this? Is there something that's good that can come out of this? Is there something that's bad, Skynet, that can come out of this? And so that's what we were going to hope to hear about today. So one of the reasons we're here is thanks to Grammarly. Has anyone heard of Grammarly? Oh my goodness, everybody's raising their hand. Mostly. Grammarly is an amazing tool, and it became more amazing, especially after the introduction of artificial intelligence. It became more useful. It's been around for 70 years, but now it's become useful for the average person to use. And it's built into their new Grammarly for Education, which is what we're attracted to here. And so our speaker today is going to be, for Grammarly, is going to be our Student Success Director, Kyle McClung. And you can see him there with his family. He's a soccer star, and he's a Little League coach. And he's also an adjunct instructor at a local community college in Southern Colorado, or California. So it's kind of nice to have another academic in the program. So are we ready to play his lead?
All right, I think I'm on screen now. Hi, everyone. Hello, expert panelists, and hello, Dennis. While I wish I can join you in person, I'm grateful for the chance to connect with each of you in this virtual setting. My name is Kyle McClung, and I represent Grammarly for Education. It is an honor to speak to an audience where we're linked by a shared interest and commitment to the enhancement of artificial intelligence, especially within the realm of education. We at Grammarly are honored to be the official sponsor of this groundbreaking town hall on the future of AI. In light of our gathering, it's critical that we reflect on the role of writing in education. Shockingly, 75% of K through 12 students grapple with the fundamentals of writing, as indicated by our nation's report card. Now, this challenge doesn't end with high school. It extends into higher education. Now, more than ever, with the release of generative AI, the art of writing is at its most impactful stage. Now, I've prepared a short video to share how exactly Grammarly is approaching supporting students and faculty with this. Thank you, everyone. My name's Kyle McClung, and I represent Grammarly for Education, a platform at the forefront of leveraging AI to empower communication and learning. We've been developing responsible AI for over 15 years, and we started as a student-first tool, built by 2 Ukrainian founders who wanted to help English as second language learners, like themselves, become better writers. We are trusted by over 3,000 educational institutions and 70,000 professional teams worldwide, which is a testament to our enterprise-grade security and privacy, as well as those institutional features. Now, we go where you go, as we work everywhere writing happens, not just for students, but also for faculty and staff, which is why we work within over 500,000 web and desktop applications. All right, welcome to Grammarly's editor. Now, this is just a sample paper showing 141 suggestions, which is merely what they are. Our goal is to keep critical thinking at the forefront for students. So we make suggestions, and these suggestions are color-coded here on the right-hand side, which focus on correctness, which is focusing on improving spelling and grammar. We have clarity, which is helping making your writing easier to understand. There's engagement, which helps your writing become more interesting and effective. And delivery, which is helping your writing, making sure it has the right impression on your reader. Now, I want to pop over to a blank page because the blank page syndrome for students, it's a student's biggest fear. Ultimately, a student's biggest fear is Grammarly's greatest strength. And I want to point out that we are equitable access for all. Grammarly is dedicated to teaching all students how to prompt generative AI tools with some suggestions of our own. And by doing that, Grammarly has to become context aware. And so I want you to notice this is a blank page, and it starts off with, how do you want to get started? And I want to compare that to, in this sample paper here, if we load our generative AI, instead of it says, how do you want to get started, it says, what do you want to do? And it'll be able to prompt some ideas to go alongside that. And so if I start off over here, and we're talking about equitable access for all, many students have not been taught how to brainstorm or how to ideate alongside generative AI. So what I believe happens is they quickly go to the end result. Write me an essay on the impact, if I can spell, folks, on generative AI within sports marketing. I'm going to copy that so I don't have to type that every single time. We're going to go ahead and enter. This is why Grammarly is built for the institution. We want to red flag this so students can realize, okay, hey, maybe this isn't a prompt that I should focus on. Instead, maybe we can brainstorm topics for my assignment on the impact of generative AI. And so our generative AI will go in and actually brainstorm topics alongside with the student. And so the student can come over and say, okay, yeah, actually, maybe instead of the impact, let's focus on the ethical considerations, ethical implications of generative AI. Let's have it give me a research plan now. And now we can work alongside this as an ideation partner. And then also, it'll allow the students to draft an outline. Now, I'm flying through this just because of time, but our blank syndrome, our blank page syndrome, is now gone as the students are allowed to come over and now paste this in. This is how our generative AI works within a blank page. But if we come on over to our completed paper, so this is a completed paper within our editor. I'm going to reload the page, and we can click our generative AI. Now it says, what do you want to do? This is where we become context aware, and we're a 24/7 writing assistant for your students. So your students can come in here and see the ideas for these specific prompts to work with generative AI. And hey, how about I suggest some counter arguments to this paper? What would that look like? What if in my paper, I can suggest cuts? What are areas that that generative AI can analyze this paper? Grammarly will analyze my paper and suggest certain areas of cuts that I can do. Okay, maybe instead of cuts, how about I come down here and we can identify gaps, give me ideas for improvement, pick out my pain points. This is why we are trusted by over 3,000 educational institutions. It's why we're trusted by over 70,000 teams worldwide. And I want to say thank you so much for allowing me to quickly walk you through Grammarly for Education and how we are built for the institution as an ideation partner with the goal of keeping critical thinking at the forefront for your students, as well as building in these academic guardrails for the institution. Now I have a QR code up here, and so please grab your phones, scan this QR code, because it'll allow you the opportunity to go to a Grammarly digital room where you will be able to learn more about Grammarly for Education. You'll be able to, there's a ton of PDF documents in there just about generative AI in general and specifically Grammarly for Education. Again, I want to thank you guys for your time, and I really appreciate allowing me to come and speak with you guys today. Take care, everyone.
Thank you, Kyle. You on the screen again? In the 1950s, futurists were saying that someday we're going to have technology in the classroom that will aid students and that you can actually watch your teacher on a screen. That was a pretty radical idea. So 70 years from now, what's that going to look like? Well, today is March 1st, 2024, and today is the first day of the future. Welcome to the future. Let's find out what that future looks like with our panelists. We're going to start with Nathan Roskop. Please tell us what you see the future of AI in cybersecurity. Microphone.
Good morning. First, I want to correct, not a doctor. There's the doctor, not here. All right. So the future of AI, I'm going to speak in two aspects, cybersecurity and education. First thing I want to take a look at is cybersecurity use cases. And one of the things that we need to think about before we start, though, is where do you get your joy and happiness from? Where do you get your joy and happiness from? Is it going to be from a certain political institution? Is it the Republican, Democrat, or Forward Party? Where are you getting your joy from? Second question is, what does it mean to be human? AI is giving us an opportunity to help us think about what does it mean to be a human? And with that, what is the responsibility that comes with that? What is your responsibility as a human being here on Earth? So let's talk about AI. When we look at AI, the power of artificial intelligence, which is here, by the way, so it's not going away. It's here, it's going to be the future. It is the ability to take data and analyze information at machine speed. Computers process data almost instantly, right? And so they can take large data sets, and that allows them to analyze the data and then draw those logical conclusions, to be able to make decisions, and then when they make decisions, then it can perform tasks. And that's the way it is. In cybersecurity world, we have something that's been created for us called the Defender's Dilemma. Anyone know what the Defender's Dilemma is? Obviously, you didn't read the Google security report. Put it on your to-do read list. All right. So the Defender's Dilemma is in cybersecurity is there's a whole lot more people trying to attack you than you can defend, right? And if you think about cybersecurity and relate it to maybe a physical security, we think of you can build a big gigantic wall, thousands of kilometers wall, but it only takes a few inches to be a weakness, right? Well, it's the same thing in cybersecurity. I can have the best defenses, the best plans, but it only takes this little small thing, and I'm trying to defend a large area with a very small team. And cybersecurity professionals get burned out doing that. So the question today is, can AI help us? Give you an idea, when we look at cybersecurity in relation to AI, those wonderful spam messages, anybody ever get a spam message or a phishing email? Hopefully you know what those words mean by now. No, one person? Seriously? On your text messages, on your phone, you don't get a phone call, right? It's all the time, it's everywhere. And so it normally would take about 16 hours for someone in like Nigeria or some other country, right, to craft some of these messages. Well, guess what? With AI, and as Vince mentioned earlier, where they did the photo and it took 1 minute, 5 minutes, it takes them less than 10 minutes and they can have a genuine email that you couldn't tell whether I wrote it or whether someone else wrote it in another country using AI. And so now that makes our life as a human being here on Earth a lot more complicated. Because I used to be able to tell just by reading and looking at a few indicators, I could say, oh yeah, but now I can't do that anymore. It's a lot more challenging. On the other side, as a cybersecurity incident responder and engineer, it could take me 2 hours or 8 hours to write up a report. Guess what? with AI's assistance, now I can go from 2 hours down to 5 minutes. Time savings. I can go on and do other things and go on to the next threat that I have to fight. So when we look at cybersecurity use cases, there's 3 major areas where it is being applied today. I wouldn't say it's everywhere. It's not. It's just in. It's starting to be applied. That might be a better way. So the first thing is AI can help us as a machine. It can help us monitor and detect and classify, as well as categorize and prioritize vulnerabilities, threats. We, as human beings, we cannot do that. It comes too rapidly, right? If you are sitting and there's a bunch of items coming, we don't live in the Matrix world where we can just magically dodge all these bullets, right? No, we live in the real world, and in the real world, there is a lot of people that are trying to attack us and attack our companies, attack us individually, and so we need to be able to defend against that, and the only way that we have a fighting chance is by using artificial intelligence to aid us. Second way, natural language processing. The wonderful thing about AI and how we've developed over the last couple of years is I can just tell it what I want to do in words, and it takes those words and translates it into actions, and then it performs those actions. Are we fully there yet? Not yet. I asked yesterday, well, you'll see it in a slide in a moment. I said, I want you to take this slide and convert it into a pie chart. Easy task, right? Might take me some time. Guess what? It told me how I could do it, but it didn't do it for me. I was so bummed because I needed that 5 minutes of time savings. So you don't get a pie chart today. So I'm sorry, but blame AI. All right. But anyway, it can help us with the reports, and it also can give us advice and suggestions, just like the Grammarly tool. It was a great video demonstrating some of the concepts here, that how it can give us advice as a security engineer, as a response personnel in the IT team. We can say, oh yeah, hey, I need to do this. I need to change this. And there's a wonderful video that demonstrates this. Microsoft Security Copilot. So you might be familiar with Microsoft Copilot, but there's Microsoft Security Copilot. It's for security engineers. You may not understand it, but there's a nice demo video that was recorded. And anybody watch that by chance? No? Hopefully some of you online who are watching, some of my friends, maybe you've watched it already. But it gives you a really good idea of what it means to give some predictions on, hey, there's some weaknesses here. You need to change some configurations in your computer systems. AI can do that. And then thirdly, summarize and be able to write those reports and then also recommend actions. So this is the pie chart slide that is not a pie chart thanks to AI. But why should you care? Well, first of all, if you are in manufacturing, who's in manufacturing industry here represented? 26% of the cyber attacks are in manufacturing. That's a large percentage. When we go beyond manufacturing, we go to the finance and insurance industry. 18%. That's a lot of attacks. They're attacking those industries. So if you are a part of it, if you're a financial advisor, if you are, in the professional business and consumer services, if you're a legal lawyer, they're attacking you. They want to steal your intellectual property, your data, your customers, your customer things. They're going to use it in multiple ways. This doesn't list defense. I would say that's probably like number one on there, and we have other panelists to talk about that. But energy, wholesale, like nobody is exempt. If you're in education, the good news is this last year was a better year for education than last year. Last year, 7% of the attacks were in education. And now it's only down to 3%. Is it going to change year to year? Yeah. What are they trying to do? Well, they're trying to install malware. If you go to a website, and by the way, I was a little bit freaked out as a cybersecurity person, that QR code, what if it went to a bad website? What if someone was able to manipulate that and you guys didn't know, and you go to that website? What if you, because of AI, right, they change it, they might have changed this, you couldn't notice it, no one knows that, you just see those lines, you click on a camera and it takes you to a bad website, and now it's downloaded software on your phone. right? Bad people do bad things with good technology. It happens. It happens to everybody. So everyone has a duty as a human being to be vigilant. What are they trying to do? They're trying to install malware, as I just gave you that example. Almost 40% of the time, that's the bad actors. That's what they're trying to accomplish. They're also trying to ransomware, right? You've heard of that. You see it in the news all the time. 20%. They're trying to get into your system so they can steal your data and lock it up. Maybe 16% of the time, they're trying to steal credentials, trying to steal your identity, or just your login identity at your workplace. So where do we go for a little bit of help? I don't have too much time. Everybody say with me, CISA.gov. Ready? One more time. CISA.gov. So they are your resources, especially around election. Please go there. What I really appreciate about them, among so many different things, is they also provide bilingual resources in Spanish and English. So to all my Spanish-speaking friends out there, you can get that information, share it with grandma and grandpa and aunt and uncle. Share it with everybody, especially around election security. These are the people that help with all of our hard workers that serve to run our elections so that they are safe and secure. They also deal with a lot of industry partners. So if you are having, you're wanting to know more about how you can be secure from AI cyber attacks or just cyber attacks in general, this is a great website, CISA.gov. All right. And we're in Region 8. So quickly looking at education, in 2022, there was a summit and was created an action plan. These are 5 steps where we look at AI and cybersecurity education. And one is diversify the workforce. AI, it's so important to have different people looking at when you're developing models, when you are using the models, when you're trying to defend in cybersecurity. The people that are trying to hack are not just like me, right? They're not just like you. There's a lot of diversity. And so we need that diversity to be into the workforce. And so employers, I think, have that responsibility, but also educators, we need to help develop that pipeline. Secondly, we have the K-12 pathway. And thirdly, we have to increase our capability in AI cybersecurity educational programs, and expand business industry engagement. So that's a key. And next, in April, on April 12th, Friday afternoon, there's going to be a community hiring fair. And we're bringing in industry and nonprofits, and we're bringing in students. And so there's a chance for us to engage, collaborate, and maybe hire. And then fifthly, collaborate with government. We need that government support. And finally, AI security, governance, and thoughts. Responsible AI. We'll have more to say on this as part of the Q&A, I think. There's a responsible AI, and there's explainable AI, explaining the results, and there's also the responsible in how you design and develop it. And then finally, I think it's important to keep that human in the loop AI as part of your execution. So thank you. I appreciate the time.
Thank you, Professor Naroskop. Wow, I learned a lot there. Our next speaker is David Bernstein. David Bernstein wrote several books, and he's going to have those for sale here afterwards. But I bought this book on Amazon a few months ago, and this wasn't a page turner; it was a page hugger. I couldn't stop reading it, and I immediately got onto my chatbots and started using his prompts. And I was wowed. I've been using AI for over a year, and I felt like kindergarten reading this. It was amazing. And so I contacted the author, and come to find out, he lives up in Longmont. So we met for coffee, and now he's here. So I'd like to introduce David. Would you please tell us about software development and artificial intelligence?
Yes. Thank you, Dennis.
Thank you.
And, wow, so wonderful to be here. Thank you for having me. And I do understand that there are challenges. I'm here to talk about some of the good parts of AI, Because there is that as well. Oh, okay. Sure. Thank you. Okay. And I kind of built my career helping software developers learn how to build maintainable code. And this is something that I don't see a lot of people really talking about. So this diagram, someone once asked me if it's a religious diagram. It's not. It's just, it's just a way to remember some important ideas. So I use the geometric shape to show you 18 things that I think are key for software developers. Some of them are principles, like the open-close principle or the dependency inversion principle. Some of them are practices, like programming by intention or hide by policy, and others are disciplines, like writing the test first or refactoring. And if you're not familiar with some of these ideas, even if you're a CS person, you're not alone, because these are important ideas, but it really has not penetrated the software industry yet. So this is me, and I've been a software developer for over 40 years, and I've had the great good fortune of working with about 10,000 professional software developers. And as Dennis mentioned, I wrote a couple of books. If you want to reach me, this is my website, passprog.com. And I'll just mention briefly, this is the first book that I wrote in 2015. And it's really about it's really for the software industry, why the technical practices are important, because I found that that was the main disconnect in the software industry. So this is a book for software developers as well as the managers of software developers to explain why the technical practices are important. And I last year wrote this book with ChatGPT about prompt engineering, because I felt like there wasn't a really good source on how to prompt in an advanced way. So we collaborated on this book, and it was a lot of fun, and it has a lot of prompts on how to really get deeper into working with AI. Software really runs the world, and this is why I'm passionate about the software industry, because so many other industries depend on software. According to Robert C. Martin, one of the people in our industry, the software industry is like the fastest growing industry on the planet. It has been for decades now. He says that the number of programmers in the world doubles every 5 years. And if that's true, it means that the average level of experience on a software development team is about 2.5 years, which probably explains a lot. So I'm kind of curious, within our industry, and I talk a lot at conferences and to software developers, and developers know that we have major challenges in the software industry. But do people who are outside the industry know this as well? Do people know that the software industry has some major challenges? See? Most people don't. We've been keeping it a big secret. So, one of the studies that was done, and unfortunately there's not a lot of studies done on the software industry, but one of the studies, called the KOAA study quite appropriately, in 1994 found that only 15% of software projects across the board are successful. And right now, it's about 1/3 of software projects that are successful, which kind of scary to me. And the thing that the data doesn't show is that if you're a larger organization with lots of resources, your success rate is much lower, which is counterintuitive for most people. And there's been several things that have been trying to address this. There's a major movement in the software industry called the Agile Software Development Movement. How many people have heard of that? Okay, some people have heard of it. That's really good to know. And it's been about 20 years that it has been happening. And there's another movement that recently came on called DevOps, which is also trying to help software development be more successful. And ultimately, we've been kind of failing. But I think that AI will succeed where Agile and DevOps has failed. Because there's nothing left for us programmers to do except think about our designs, think about interacting with our customers, doing all the things that actually developers really love doing. And the AI will help us with the minutia that we don't always love doing. So this could be really, really helpful. And I do believe that when we start to incorporate AI in software development and developers go from where we are now to 10x capabilities, that there is going to be so much need that it's unrecognized in software that we still will have jobs. That's what I believe. And this has happened in the software industry so many times. You know, back in 1990, I remember being told, you don't want to do C programming anymore, you want to use this new thing called C++. You know, there's been so many revolutions in our industry. I really hope that the software industry is addressing these issues of AI first, and that we have the opportunity to help other industries move into using AI well. Just think about what it will be like for other industries to get the software that they need in hours or days instead of months or years. I think that alone is going to really help to transform society. And so there's a lot of exciting and amazing things on the horizon for AI with us. And Dennis said this to me, he said it to you guys this morning as well. And I wanted to put it in as a quote because I really do believe this, that AI won't take your job, but someone with AI skills might. And so it's good to sort of understand these things and discuss these things. So it's a real honor for me to be here. And we still need to validate what's happening with AI. I think in our lifetimes, we're going to see some challenges. We're going to see it get things wrong. These are all part of the learning curve, you know. You think about it, if it was an individual, if it was a person, we wouldn't, in their first mistake, fire them probably. We'd probably try to retrain them. And so we got to be a little bit patient, a little bit tolerant with AI, because there will be growing pains. But it also clearly holds a lot of potential for us. So thank you so much, and I'm excited to do the Q&A with you guys.
Wow. I got it. Our next expert panelist is Brandon Lee. In February of 2022, the world was learning how to spell AI. And Brandon was one of the pioneers out there teaching about how AI is influencing small business. And so I saw him at the Pro Rodeo. Is that where we met?
Yes.
The Pro Rodeo Hall of Fame, and he was at a presentation for the Better Business Bureau. And I was just stunned at what I was learning from him. And I said, this guy's a guru. And so when the Gazette and Grammarly asked our college to put this together, he was the first person I thought of when it came to small business. So please give him an ear, because I think we're going to learn something about anybody who owns a small business or works for a business. Brandon.
So the International Monetary Fund just released a report that 40% of jobs are going to be impacted by AI. So I read that just this week, and I thought, artificial intelligence is going to take our jobs. That sounds kind of like a threatening statement, but it might not really be true. And the reason that is that I actually get excited thinking about AI taking some jobs. I would love to have more opportunity to do more meaningful things, to spend time doing things that I actually enjoy and less time doing like redundant tasks. And so that's what I'm going to talk about is, you know, thinking about how we can utilize AI to its best capacity to give us something that we need more of, which is a commodity that's a finite resource. And so people think about, well, AI just, came on board. Everybody's really hype about AI in business, but it's actually been in business for quite a while. AI has been in industries since the 1980s. There was in finance, predominantly in the 80s, doing expert systems, and that was mimicking human decision behavior or decision-making behaviors, and it was mostly around all finance-driven items. In the 90s and the 2000s, you didn't really see a lot with AI in the mainstream. And the reason that was because it was cost prohibitive and there was low tech. So we come to 2010 and all of a sudden, it's hitting the mainstream. It's hitting industries that started to figure out the value of implementing AI technologies into the work. And so first we'll talk about retail. Retail industry started using them for inventory management. They started using them as customer service agents. And then you think about finance, who'd been using it from the 80s, started to use it for fraud detection. They started to use it for decision-making abilities for automated trading. And then when you think about healthcare, it started using it for research and development, and then also diagnostic procedures. And then you step into today. We're in the 2020s, AI is going to be involved in almost every aspect of our lives. As we approach the 2030s, who knows what's going to happen when you just look at the transposition of things that have taken place over the last year. So that makes me a little bit excited thinking about, well, what is it that we have? We have this opportunity sitting right in front of us. And I mentioned this before, is that the opportunity is there's one commodity that is non-regenerative, that is non-renewable. It is something that is finite, and that is our time as humans. We only have a finite time on this earth, right? So if we can utilize AI to capitalize on that, to make more meaningful existence for humans, that is something that gets me excited. This guy's running a little bit slow on me. There we go, time. There we are. All right, so most of the entrepreneurs that I talk to, the ones that I know, they got into going into business for themselves or owning a small business for really 3 very simple reasons. One of them is wealth. They want to have the opportunity to create their own finances, to create their own wealth, and be in control of that. The second one is they wanted to create something meaningful. They wanted to either change people's lives in their local community, they wanted to impact their community, or they wanted to try to impact the entire world. And the third one was, again, they wanted to own their time. But what happens to entrepreneurs is you're wearing 17 hats. You're doing everything for your business. And time becomes the one thing that you sacrifice in order to be productive, in order to be in control of your wealth. And what I like to do with my audiences is I like to leave you with some tangible things that you can do as soon as you leave our presentation so that you can implement whatever I'm offering to you in ways that you can positively use AI. So when you think about AI in your small business, this is what's possible. All right, we're going to look through these 5 opportunities. So we're just going to briefly touch on these because I only have a couple of minutes, but we could probably reach into 10 or 20 different opportunities. But I thought these were the top 5, and these are things that I actually implement in my small business. The first one would be you automate redundant tasks. I have a rule that if I do something more than 5 times in a day, I'm no longer going to do that. I'm going to find a way to automate that task to make sure that it can be done efficiently, but so that I don't have to waste any time on it. And again, you heard talking through cyber, talking through software development, the ability for AI to do things very quickly makes it so that we can create more time in our day. The second one is making meetings more productive. Now you're probably saying, Brandon Lee, you're a liar. There's no way you're making meetings more productive. Nobody even likes to go to meetings, right? Well, here's a simple strategy. If you get an AI agent in your meetings to be the note taker, you let that AI take the notes for the entire meeting, and then they give you a transcription. You create a custom GPT that is your meeting follow-up GPT. You upload that transcript and say, with prompts, I'd like you to create some follow-ups, I'd like you to create some to-dos, and I'd like you to assign those to-dos to the people in the meeting. And then you can go one step further and say, and I also want to attribute some due dates. Maybe give us 14 to 21 days for all of these tasks to be done. The AI will then create all of that for you and save you hours, right? So each one of these things starts to add hours back into your day. And you also kind of don't have to pay attention the entire time in the meeting, right? Because that happens. We start to float our attention in other places, and what happens is the AI is going to capture all of the information for you. The next one is data analysis and graphing results. Everybody loves digging in Excel spreadsheets, right? You all like looking through data, looking through numbers and crunching them, right? Maybe a handful of you do, right? Yeah, I enjoy parts of it, but there's parts of it where it's like, I don't really have time to dig into all of this data. Why don't I use AI to generate the tables that I need, generate the pie chart that it wouldn't do before? There are GPTs that will do that for you. And then you can turn those results that you get from that data analysis into graphical representations of the data that are consumable by people in a very simple way. Again, that's saving you hours in a day. Competitive analysis and strategic planning. So when you think about looking into the market, you're maybe thinking about introducing a new product or a new service, or you want to find out what your competitors are doing, or you just want to get a general report of what's happening in the industry. You can create a competitive analysis GPT, get that data, and then use it to strategically plan the next moves for either your product, your service, your business, or decide whether or not you're going to make a move forward. And finally, this is my favorite one. This is brainstorming and content creation. This is where sometimes I need a backboard to bounce ideas off of. I need to be able to use maybe a writer's block that I've incurred. I'm like, I can't get forward. I don't know how to be creative today. I can use some prompting to be able to create ideas to then give me a leaping platform to go and develop that idea a little bit further. So with all that being said, AI is not going to take our jobs. We've mentioned this before. It is going to make our jobs easier. It is going to create much more of a meaningful experience for people that are in the workforce. You're going to be able to, and I can't read that, it's too far away. Again, replace redundant tasks. We're going to look at elevating workers' skills. So one of the things that I think about with AI is I think that if you're doing busy work throughout the day, but you can utilize AI to create more productive work, you're going to elevate the skills of the workforce that you're employing, right? So you're going to be able to take people from doing these busy works to end up doing productive works. They're going to be able to do more with the time that you're giving them because you're giving them tools that are taking away some of those redundant tasks. And then you have the potential to increase productivity and overall profitability. That is not to say that I am for replacing people's jobs with automation or with artificial intelligence for the mere sake of profiteering. I don't think that that's where we want to focus our attention. I think that if we're able to make people's lives better, if we're able to create a better human experience for people by enabling them with new and exciting tools, I think that's where our opportunity is going to be for using AI. Most importantly, again, we want to create more time in our day because that is the only resource that we cannot get back. So every single day that you're spending time working on these redundant tasks, that's time you can't spend elsewhere. So again, time is what my main focus on using any of the artificial intelligence, and a lot of the folks that I deal with in small business, that is the crux of our argument for getting on board with using AI. Thank you.
Wow. Thank you, Brandon. Let me get this straight. Productive meetings? I'm game. Our last panelist is an expert in national space defense. I met Christy at a cybersecurity conference in October, and her table had the best swag. And so that's why I was over there just scooping up all this fun stuff. And so I got to talking with her, and I realized that she was an absolute genius when it comes to protecting the world's infrastructure. Just within a few minutes, she was just so high level, so high above me, and I was in the Air Force for years. I was like, okay, wow, we got to get you on this panel. And so that's why she's here today, to kind of explain the umbrella and how artificial intelligence is helping keeping us all safe. Christy.
Thank you so much, Dennis. Well, I am so excited to be here today, and this is one of my favorite topics to talk about. My name is Christy Freeg, but my friends in the Department of Defense call me Roxy. I am the president of Alethea Software. We are a Colorado Springs-based small business specializing in software solutions that have to do with RF satellite communications and space domain awareness. We work primarily with the National Space Test and Training Center, the Air Force 10CAP, and also the Space Information Sharing and Analysis Center, or the Space ISAC, which is headquartered here in Colorado Springs, just up the road on Nevada. What I want to start talking about is how the landscape has been changing in the DoD over the past decades. Now, AI is not new in the DoD. It actually has been used extensively in pockets of the DoD for many years. But specifically, it's been reserved for areas that have large amounts of funding because it hasn't been very accessible in a general sense. It's typically employed in very targeted use cases. A few examples include predictive maintenance, so predicting dynamically when a part or a component is going to fail and when you need to replace it so that you don't have to do inefficient maintenance. It streamlines and creates budget savings as well. Of course, computer vision for unmanned aerial vehicles is a big one. This is complicated by a few factors, which we'll talk about in a minute. And then decision making, which is my favorite. It's near and dear to my heart. And this is the practice of allowing the warfighter to make the best decision on the best amount of data in the shortest amount of time. Now, AI is widely available, as you all know. So this is changing the landscape for the DoD. It's also advancing rapidly, which if you know anything about the DoD, rapid is not in their vocabulary. So everyone is scrambling in the DoD. Everyone knows that they need to apply AI to stay competitive. Because competitiveness in the DoD means peace, national security. There's a lot on the line. But there's also a lot of policy. So policy governs everything for the DoD, and it's scrambling to keep up. Even the local policy in our city, as we've been discussing, is scrambling to keep up. And the DoD does operate under some very unique constraints when it comes to AI and implementing AI, which I'll talk about in a minute. So the bleeding edge of AI ML in the DoD, I'll only talk about one area because I only have time for one, and this is space domain awareness. So space domain is, of course, as the name suggests, all of the assets that are in space. So these are satellites, sensors, and payloads. But what people don't often realize is that most of the infrastructure for the space sector is actually on the ground. So we have ground stations, which are connected to networks, which have physical assets, and so they're very complicated and very vulnerable. A lot of this space domain awareness discipline involves aggregating disparate data into a single common operating picture. So the idea of this common operating picture has been the holy grail for the DoD for many years, and many companies have tried it and failed, and now I'm excited because I feel like with the advent of AI being better and better, this idea of a common operational picture actually being all that it's hyped up to be could be very possible. AI-assisted decision-making is where I live. So Alethea is a member of the Space ISAC. It's a community of industry partners who have gathered together for the purpose of information and threat sharing amongst ourselves, amongst our allies, and amongst our Department of Defense as well. So AI-assisted decision-making is concerned with minimizing the amount of data that a user has to deal with, and also streamlining the user interfaces that the users interact with. This is very important because a lot of times our warfighters are 18, 19 years old, untrained, and so the amount that we can simplify the interfaces that they have to interact with and lower the amount of data and the amount of subject matter expertise that those warfighters have to have is going to give us an advantage. It can also help us to detect previously unknown correlations in the data that are maybe too subtle or too unrelated for a human to recognize. Pattern of life and anomaly detection. This is something that I do in service of the Space ISAC. I am the technical architect for the Space ISAC's Watch Center. I highly encourage you to Google it for more information. But what I do is I take all the member companies and the data that they bring to the table and the tools that they bring, and I figure out how to put them together inside the Watch Center to correlate all the different data types that they bring, and then to apply the AI/ML algorithms and tools that the companies bring to the table in a meaningful way to solve problems that we haven't previously been able to solve. So there are some unique challenges when it comes to the DoD that are really not faced by industry. The first one is the ethics around the use of lethal force. So we have unmanned aerial vehicles with lethal weapons armed with AI. What happens if the AI is wrong? Who's going to take responsibility for that? What's our tolerance of risk? This is a very important and probably the most prohibitive of all of the constraints that the DoD is facing right now. International regulations. We don't go to war alone. So we have to understand, with our allies, we have to come to a consensus about how do we regulate AI? What is an acceptable level of risk? What is an acceptable mistake? And policy is slow to keep up with changing technology. Classification levels of aggregated data. So when you bring different types of data together, you create a classification problem. So this has been a problem, probably the biggest problem in the space domain awareness disciplines that I've been involved in is, okay, great, we can put all this data together, but should we? What could happen if our adversary got a hold of that aggregated information on an unclassified system? Disparate, stovepiped data sources. The DoD is full of stovepipes and This is a problem that we have been trying to break down, but it's also in the networks. Even the networks are segmented. So there's a lot of challenges facing the DoD right now of how do we even aggregate all this data together? How do we get the departments to talk? How do we get the different systems to talk? There's legacy systems in older data formats with older protocols. So that's been a really big challenge as well. Network latency, lack of connectivity. Again, with classified networks, there are only certain points where these different networks can connect via a guard, and these are very highly regulated. And so how do we aggregate and push up and pull down information in a rapid way in order to support rapid decision making? And then finally, we have adversaries that are attacking us all the time. And with AI, now they have the ability to inject fake data and tamper with our real data. So even if we have the best AI model, the best algorithms, how do we know if the data that we're operating on is the data that it says it is? How do we know that it didn't come from an adversary? How do we know that it hasn't been tampered with? And luckily, these questions, all of these challenges, are currently in conversations. They're currently being addressed. There are really smart people working on these problems. I have the privilege to be a part. So I'm optimistic that with all of us together, combined, that we're going to be able to overcome all of these challenges and apply AI in a meaningful way to maintain national supremacy and also, and most importantly, peace. And I'm excited to be a part. So thank you very much.
Oh. Nathan, David, Brandon, Roxy. Okay, the easy part is over, public speaking. Now it's time to get some questions going here. Is there anybody who has a burning question you want to ask right now? Go for it. Please say your name clearly and then ask the question.
Hi, I'm Dennis Bailey, and my question is, how do you make the GPTs you were talking about, Mr. Lee?
Sure. Let me pull this a little closer. Okay, so a lot of what you can do with GPTs, of course you have to be on the paid plans. You can't use the free resources. And what I tell everybody when I'm getting them excited about using GPTs is pay the $20. I promise you, you will 10x that return for the $20 a month. And so what you do is you build your custom GPT. So you create the custom GPT by feeding it the information that you want it to source. So I would say don't feed it personal or private information, right, or company proprietary information, but give it enough information so that it understands what you're trying to do. And then you want to cleverly name it so that you can always go back to that GPT. You don't always have to recreate it. And then you just upload the information that you want. So my meeting follow-up GPT that we actually just created a couple of weeks ago is one that we're still refining what it spits out for us, but it's one that's really productive in getting all of the to-dos for us, as opposed to us taking notes and then putting together an email or putting it into our project management software. Using the GPT, it does it for us. And so it's really easy once you do it one or two times. You start to get in a rhythm of building them, and then really the sky's the limit in what you want it to create for you.
And you can just make those with the paid GPT platform? Okay.
Yep.
Thank you.
And with that paid GPT platform, you get all of the plugins that come with it. You can get lost and spend days playing with those plugins, but just from an operational standpoint, just get started by giving it some very direct information on what you want it to do, basically what the output you want to get, and then you can start to refine it once you get that started.
Okay, thank you.
We also have another expert on building GPTs from scratch, and that's David, who also trains on that. David, I don't know how to spell GPT. What do we do?
And just last night, I started to build an army of GPTs.
An army?
An army of them. Yeah, they collaborate. They work together.
You're scaring me.
And there was just a tiny little announcement last week from OpenAI that you can use the @ sign to reference GPTs by name. That tiny little announcement is life-changing because it really points the direction of what a GPT really is. It's like an agent, and it's going to be a specialist in a certain area. My experiments with them give me way different and better results than just talking to ChatGPT directly by creating a custom GPT that specializes in an area. Because GPTs in general have this huge body of knowledge, and we kind of need to focus them to give us expert advice in one area. So when you just say, you're an expert in this, then you allow it to go deeper in that area.
Thank you.
Wow,
Sure.
thank you. We have something from online. AI at quick serve restaurants. What do you see the future of artificial intelligence with me getting a cheeseburger? Nathan.
So I think the AI, it's going to know while you're driving that you're coming. It's going to know what restaurants and I'm not joking here, but it's going to know what restaurant you're going to, and it'll have your food ready for you before you go without having to really do anything. So take it or leave it.
Do we have another audience? You got one in the back? Yes, sir. There's a microphone right there. Your
So
name,
my
please.
question's mainly
name-
for
your name,
David.
please.
I come out of the software development. I was early in my career, 12 years I was a software developer. And some of the things you said, going from C++ to C, boy, I went through that back in the 80s. But my question is more about, you were talking about the issues in the software industry, which they haven't changed for 30, 40 years, as you know. And your graphic there was perfect. But anyway, my question is, if you mentioned that like only 15% of software products are successful. So if AIs are going to be created to generate good software, what are you feeding it to learn from if 15% of them are bad or good and 75 or 85% of them are bad?
Oh, wow. That's such a great question. And a full year ago, I sat down, the very first thing I sat down with 3.5 ChatGPT, or actually 3.0, and I said, here's some code, I want you to refactor it. And I spent weeks trying to convince it to do some very simple refactorings. It just refused. And it's exactly for the reason that you said, that it has been trained on the corpus of code that's out there on GitHub and other public repositories. And most of that code is not up to my standards. And so it produced pretty crappy code for me. That will change. We can, especially when AI is having rules rather than looking just simply at the training data. Because we can give it rules to build stuff. But as I said, it's going to be a bit of a rocky road because we're still figuring it out ourselves. And we got to understand it first.
Are you going to be able to do it kind of like the deep fakes, where you have an AI that feeds the information to another, the generating AI is being fed information from another AI that's telling it what's wrong, and then it fixes it, and you do that over and over and over again? Is it going to be that kind of a process?
I don't know. I think it's going to be more like somebody who's a really clear thinker who understands these things is going to say, these are the rules that I want you to follow.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, thank you.
You're welcome.
Very good. We have several questions about, you're next, sir. We have several questions about the AI and its use in education and higher education, and I hope I put that in there in my presentation. I'll answer that if that's okay with the panelists for education. AI is becoming more and more just part of our curriculum. It is just like 40 years ago when we got this thing called a word processor. Anybody remember when the word processor came out? And everybody was like, yeah, what do we need that for? And so, but then we found out the people who had that certificate from our college were replacing people who were still on the IBM Selectric. And so we are retooling quickly, rapidly, and our faculty are quickly learning how to use AI in the classroom every day. Sir, you had the next question?
Yes. By the way, I want to thank all the panels presenting their own technology and their knowledge in regards to AI, space domain, cybersecurity, and software development, and along with the BBB, which is for businesses. So I want to start by just going from the right to the left. I have specific questions for each of the panelists. I'm Gil Orsilla. I used to teach up here at Pikes from 2012 to 2014, and in mathematics department. So, by the way, Christy, I just wanted to let you know that it was a great presentation. Space domain, what a subject, right? I used to be in a space domain when I was in the Air Force. So here's my question. How would you use cryptography in a space domain to protect space assets?
Yeah, absolutely. That's a great question. And it's one of the phenomenon that I'm watching specifically in the space ISAC. There are a lot of companies who are actually using blockchain technology to apply it to the problem set that I mentioned, verifying the origin of data and essentially giving a trail of proof that this data came from here and it has not changed since it left its origin and has come to its destination. That is probably the application that I'm the most familiar with and the most interested in, specifically with RF data, positional data with satellites. One of the concerns is that our adversaries could spoof the location or spoof a maneuver that a satellite could be performing, or mask a maneuver that a satellite is performing. So having that ability to verify the integrity of the data along the way is really important for making decisions in space.
Thank you. And my follow-on question for you, is it feasible to use cryptography to secure our space domain?
Absolutely. I think one of the biggest challenges is older hardware. So that's one of the primary discussions that's going on, is how do we protect our older space assets that were not built with cryptography in mind. This is an ongoing conversation. There's a lot of really smart people involved in it, and so I'm optimistic that we're going to get some really good answers, but absolutely that's going to be key moving forward.
Thank you. And by the way, I just want to tell you that the Department of Defense has a rapid prototyping program, and it's currently in place all over with all the spectrum of services. Thank you.
Absolutely.
My next question would be for Bren. You mentioned something about along the lines of if it's a redundant item or a work, right, we can basically utilize GPT, right? So my question is, you mentioned something about you want the GPT to do the note-taking for you, right? Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. So how would you apply ChatGPT in a note-taking while you are in a meeting?
Sure. So there's a bunch of different platforms, and it's not necessarily ChatGPT. You can use any of the platforms that are available. The one that I predominantly use is called Odin, O-D-I-N. And basically, we invite Odin to our meeting, in a Zoom meeting, and it is there just to take notes. And when we're done, I go to the Odin platform, and there's a complete transcription of the meeting. It notes the time, it gives you the time that somebody spoke, the person that spoke in the meeting. It also gives you the ability to export all of those transcriptions into whatever type of file that you like, and then you can use that and you upload to ChatGPT.
So if I understand it correctly, it's not a ChatGPT.
That portion of it is not a ChatGPT. That
Okay.
portion is a different platform that are, just a different AI platform that we then utilize to plug into ChatGPT.
Yeah, because I just want to add on that NLP still has issues basically to listen to some individual and basically provide you a text and interpretation, just for the record. Thank you.
Yep.
Sir, we got 70 more questions. If you could
Okay.
do this afterwards, I appreciate it. I'm sorry to cut you off, but
no worries, no
we've got a whole bunch of hands here. Thank you. Those are brilliant questions, and I look forward to the other ones. How and when should we start introducing artificial intelligence to children?
I could start. Sure. Sure. So something that I've talked to a lot of folks about is, when you think about Generation Z, they were born with the technology of smartphones, right? So these kids have had this their entire life. And I think that the next generation, kids that are born in the next 3 to 5 years, are going to be born with AI as part of their lives. I don't think that it's going to be the ability for us to regulate when it's introduced, because as parents or as business owners, we're going to be using it. It's going to be an experience that they have when they go to the drive-thru and Chick-fil-A has, an AI bot that's talking to you, taking your order, or providing the food to you, right? So I think that it's already going to be an integral part of their lives. So I don't know that there's a way that you're going to regulate it unlike what you would do with like social media where you can say, look, you have to be 13 or older. I think this is just going to be a part of everyday life.
If I might follow on, I think the bigger issue, and there's a question on this too, I think that I've seen, is not about using the AI, it's about critical thinking.
Yes.
Because they're going to be so used to this, they'll accept it as that's the truth. And we've lost that critical thinking piece that we need to be able to, as human beings, we have to be able to decide, what is this data really telling me? And if you just believe everything the computer tells you, you're wrong. And if you believe everything that like the TV or news or internet, probably the internet or social media tells you, you're wrong, right? So we need to teach the critical thinking more so than the AI. The AI is just going to come naturally.
Yeah, I agree with that.
Okay. It seems, to add to your note there, Nathan, it seems that we've learned to rely and trust our phones. Just driving down here from the Rampart campus, I have my Siri telling me where to go, and I didn't question it. I'm going to turn left. Okay. Interesting. How is AI a threat to the insurance industry?
Ask an insurance agent.
I don't know. Do we have an audience question? Whoa, there you go.
This question is for all the panelists. By the way, thank you. Your information was very useful. With advancements in, AI and quantum computing, what path would you say for somebody really getting into computer science? What path would you say for somebody to thrive in this field and keep thriving as the future goes on?
I think I'll take that one. So it really comes back down to the core of what software development is, and I think that it really was misunderstood right from the start, that it is extremely creative. We recognize the parts of software that require the left brain, logic, analysis, etc. But that's just to make the computer do something. We also need to write software that is understandable to other people and that is extensible, that we can actually go in and change. And the way we write software today is like taking a photograph. We can see it from that perspective. It does the job that it's supposed to do. But when we go around or try to look from other perspectives, try to repurpose it to do other things, we find that it's rigid, that it can't do that. And so we really need to understand the principles of extendable or changeable software. That's what we've been trying to do in the Agile movement and the other movements we talked about. AI is going to help us with that, I think. And so the things that I've been focusing on in my career, the principles, design patterns, those kinds of things, I think are the things that are going to be critical for software developers in the future. And it's going to help us gain a deeper understanding of software. So I think that we're going to still be needed, but like I say, and like Dennis says, our roles are going to change. And it's going to be back to the fundamentals, which is good.
And I'll chime in a little bit as well. As an employer of a software company, I hire developers. And so what I'm looking for when I hire people is not just, of course, the skills to do the job, but I'm looking for people who are going to take initiative, who are going to think critically, who are going to be thinking one step ahead, even of me. What am I going to need as a manager? What are our customers going to need? How can we anticipate those needs? So yes, the skills are really important, but I would encourage people to hone the skills of critical thinking, to understand the needs of customers, understand the needs of your managers, and be able to communicate really effectively. Those are the skills that are not going to get taken over by an AI. An AI can write software, but you need to know how to communicate to customers, communicate to your managers, work with your team, and stay one step ahead as well.
Thank you. There's several questions from online about deep fake affecting elections and affecting everything. How would deep fake issues affect each of your industries?
Yeah, absolutely. I think that our adversaries are a lot of times trying to do one of two things. They're trying to trick us into thinking that something has happened that hasn't actually happened, or they're trying to obscure something that has happened. And so I see the ability to create deep fakes as definitely a threat, because of those two, what the implications of those two things are. They can force us to show our hand if they can trick us into thinking something has happened, but that's actually not there. And we will show them, this is the way that we respond to this kind of a threat, and now they have that information. Also, they can trick us into thinking that nothing bad is going on while something actually really bad is going on. And so that, of course, creates a vulnerability because it lulls us into a false sense of security. So it is really important when we think about deep fakes and the capabilities of AI. We are, on the other end, working hard to develop tools that are going to be able to detect AI and to detect those the intrusions and the deep fakes. So it's really just, in my field, it's really about staying ahead of the adversary with the cutting edge technology and incorporating industry. And I'm really seeing the DoD understanding that they have to integrate industry as partners, and they have to start moving faster. And there are a lot of positive changes happening in the DoD right now.
Yeah, I think that the threat for deepfakes for business and small business is that if you have a disruptor in the sector that is doing things that are going against the grain or that are going to affect the profitability of other companies, the likelihood of some videos coming out of things being done or said that were never really done or said by this individual just to curtail their efforts and to really put them in a spotlight that they don't want to be in, that they now have to deal with, that detracts from their focus from the main mission of their business, is really what I worry about more than anything. Is somebody saying, well, we have a video of you saying this and you never really said that. So I think that business owners or people that are in any type of position of authority or have the ability to disrupt an industry, they're the ones that are going to be the most vulnerable. On a smaller scale, I don't really see that taking place like local school boards or in local small businesses. But as you start to grow up into some of these larger mid-sized to large businesses, I think that threat is going to be something that we have to realize how to combat very quickly.
This is a challenge. I want to share something that actually happened to me yesterday. I got phished. And this was a very different kind of phish than I've had before. Usually I get an email and you can easily spot it because the grammar is wrong or something, and I laugh at it. This was supposedly from McAfee, and it looked completely authentic. It told me that my enterprise license was up for renewal and that I would be billed $507, and I had to respond within 48 hours, otherwise I couldn't get a refund. And it looked authentic. But what I noticed is my heart was beating really fast. So if you're in a situation like that, check in with your body, because your body will probably know. And because of that, I realized, first of all, that's not legal to be able to do. And secondly, it's obviously a phish. So I just deleted it.
Yeah, I'll add to it. It's kind of frightening, the level of sophistication or the impersonation of real people that it has out there today. You could get a phone call and you think, oh, this is a bank, right? And I saw the news, by the way, read the newspaper, watch KOAA.com. Like, there was articles about the bank scams, and they're real. They look so real that it would be something hard for me to, I would believe. And so I think one of the things hackers, especially in cybersecurity, is extortion, right? They're in it for the money. They want to make money. So they're going to extort you if they're going to get a hold of your files. They're going to extort you. They might create deep fakes to kind of go back to that. They're going to create something that's a lie. And then, if you give me $1 million, I'll not release this into you. Or they'll create, sexually explicit, graphical things. And they can ruin people's lives and reputations. And kids, the thing that I worry about at, K-12, they don't know some of those boundaries. And with deep fakes, I feel sorry for anybody who has a daughter or someone, just the way the world is going. But you can see it with cybersecurity and AI, it transforms. Everybody's life is affected, whether you're a kid or whether you're a grandpa and a grandma with lots of cute little grandkids, right? Your lives are going to be affected. So you have to think harder and more critically. And I hate to repeat myself, but really every society, my question was, what makes us human? What is our responsibility? And to me, that is our responsibility, is to think critically. And all of you coming today, I think that's what you're doing. You're coming here to think critically. And so I appreciate it, and thank you.
Very good, thank you.
Can I have one
We
more?
have a, I'm sorry?
But can I just add one
Please,
more thing?
please.
One other thing that, on the positive side of this is that there are organizations and there are businesses that are working towards creating resources for people to go to that will help them understand if something is a scam. Like Better Business Bureau has like the scam tracker. There's other entities like that that are starting to become relevant because the technology now requires it. So as you're looking through like, well, I don't know if this is a scam or not, you do have resources and places you can go to find out before you make the decision to either click or delete the email that you're getting.
Can I just add one more thing related to that? Is the ability, the risk falls right now. If there's a data breach, where does the risk fall on? The consumer, the user. But and that was fine when they had emails where you could figure out they were probably not true and authentic. But nowadays in our society, with the advent of AI and the impact, we can't differentiate it with my humanness. I really literally need AI to help me differentiate and look for little fingerprints and other things. So the role of risk has to fall on now the companies. There's going to be more responsibility. We have to shift that risk from the consumer side to more corporate side, because developing tools and software and using AI, if you're going to develop this, you need to put that responsibility. It lies in the companies and you're the people making those tools. So I'm a little passionate about this, if you can't tell, but it's unfair for me to ask you in the front row, right, to be able to do my cybersecurity awareness and say, oh yeah, this is authentic or this is not. I can't do it. And I'm a cybersecurity expert, right? So if I can't do it and you can't do it, and only AI can do it, we have to be able to push back. And so the risk model, I should not get $7 from Experian because they sold my data and they have all my other data. It needs to change. It needs to stop. And anyone out there, advocate with your policymakers, advocate with the news media, and get the word out there. The risk has to change, not from consumers, but to corporate and industry developers.
Oh. We have a question in the audience.
Yes, this actually follows on from that statement, so very, very good. We see in the news today that Elon Musk has decided to sue OpenAI for a breach of contract. He was one of the founders of OpenAI, which is now being supported by Microsoft. Elon's idea is that OpenAI should be a public good and that it should be developed for all of humanity. And he's disputing that OpenAI today is actually much more beholden as a commercial subsidiary of Microsoft. And when you look back at the founding of the internet, it was open source and it was many other technologies that really allowed those technologies to flourish on the back of government support that helped the internet get started. So my question is what is the balance here as this new technology emerges? Should it be fostered as a open for all, a open source, or a government good? Or should it be developed as a commercial venture that might speed investment and development and innovation? Or what balance between those?
Let me start the answer on that one. As of today, on the drive down here, I got a text that OpenAI and other agencies, other chatbots, are now figuring out a way, it just happened this morning, to insert commercial ads into your chatbot responses. So that just happened. So they're learning how to monetize that. Team, you want to take on this question?
I would say, in a way, both. I think that the massive and groundbreaking technological discoveries are typically fueled by the ability to capitalize on it and make money and make a living and create wealth as a business owner. So as a business owner, I believe in that. But at the same time, I also believe in equal access. I think that's going to be essential, and that's one thing that I have loved about ChatGPT coming is that it is equitable for anyone to access it, anyone to use it. And so if there's a way to strategically leverage both benefits, where it's equally accessible for everyone, but also there's a competitive advantage to companies to be able to make these advances that are going to ultimately carry our society along with them. I would say, in my opinion, that would be the way to go.
Anybody else? Okay, thank you. We are running out of time. We have 18 minutes with a hard stop right at noon. If you can make your questions quick, you were next in line.
Yeah, so my question is basically seeing how AI is impacted on the algorithm of the person who implied. So I would like to see, what do you believe that if like a company uses AI, do you think that the transparency of the algorithm that is used, showing the rules of how the AI actually works is should be applied?
So you're thinking like a disclosure, like you're dealing with an AI. I think
Well,
about that a lot.
Not like dealing with the AI, but because I wouldn't say it wouldn't work for like DoD to disclose how the algorithm used that, then another person can use that algorithm to beat that. But for like a company-wise to show that it's not, I mean, because we're humans, we have flaws, so we have bias as well. So showing that the algorithm, like the transparency of that might show like the biasness of that company versus a different company. If that makes sense.
So I'll answer that. I had a slide, my very last slide, and I talked about explainable AI, being able to explain to the average consumer user, how did you achieve this result? So not just disclosing that it is an AI artifact that was produced, but actually saying, here's how it came about in the most simplest terms. Because when you're talking 80 million neurons in the brain and you're talking about these machine learning that has 100 million, like I can't imagine, and with trillions of pathways and interconnectivities, I need AI to help me explain that in a way that people can understand and how they got to it. But you should have that, what we would call traceability, to be able to roughly see what was the path that was taken and how does it compare to other classification algorithms that we have within technology, and to be able to do that comparison, because it is a big issue, and people are harmed in real life in cybersecurity. Unfortunately, I just deal with ones and zeros. But when you apply this to law enforcement and other agencies, social services agency in the sectors where they are applying to human people, it has the boundaries are much more different in that. So I would say yes to your question. I think there's a responsibility to do that, yes. But I don't think you have to disclose your proprietary algorithms on how you achieve it, but you have to be able to explain it to the public in a sufficient way, or have a third-party auditor come in. There's lots of different government or examples of how we can try to do this with policy.
Yeah.
Thank you. I mentioned earlier that we have 4 experts up here, and one of the experts knows her craft so well that she created this the transformational journey. And this won 16 awards in all these categories. So this question from online, I think, should be directed to Roxy, and we'll see if maybe it stumps her or maybe she can get it. What are the top 3 applications of AI today? And what are the top 3 applications of AI next year?
Yeah, this is going to take all of us. I mean, this is the top 3 anywhere? Well, I see, right now we're still in the experimental phases when it comes to us as individuals. We're experimenting with how can I have AI help me live my life better? How can I get my time back? How can I focus on things that are more meaningful to me? So I think in a way, one of the biggest things that we're focusing on is how do we maximize our time. And this has been with every human advance that's come along. When we were hunter-gatherers, all we could do is, get food, and that's what we did. We couldn't do science. We couldn't do experiments. We didn't have that luxury. And so each of these technological advances is important because it helps us to focus less on the tasks that are not as important and more on the tasks that are meaningful. And I really hope that it helps society as a whole. There's been a lie with productivity that says, well, now I can do more, so I should do more. And I really hope that AI helps us to get back some meaning in our lives instead of just convincing us that we should now set the bar for productivity even higher because we're able to do that. I know that barely scratches the surface. Obviously, in the Department of Defense, one of the biggest areas, like I talked about, is decision-making support. So how do we take massive amounts of data that no human can process, and how do we turn that into actionable intelligence? That's what I live day in and day out. But then as a consumer, yes, I'm trying to understand how can I make ChatGPT or these, any kind of application of AI, how do I make my life better and more meaningful using AI?
Yeah, I think for small business or even medium-sized business, it's going to be customer service agents, it's going to be schedulers, it's going to be things that we're using today, but it's going to be more robust. And I have a feeling that AI is going to be used to detect other AI in the future, and that that's going to be a way that they're able to see where things were generated from. That since we can't really do that, as humans, but speculating where it's going to be next year, I wouldn't even guess because I didn't think we would be where we are today 12 months ago.
I think we're going to see a lot of needle in haystack kind of things happen. New materials, new drugs, new things that required decades of research is going to be condensed down into weeks of research with AI. And so a lot of those new discoveries are going to come up really soon, in the next couple of years, I think. And that's going to be really exciting, yeah.
So I think it's important to know, AI has 3 different levels, really, of intelligence. There's the very machine learning, narrow level of AI, and those are helping us complete tasks. And that's what they do, the data information. But then there's the AG, which is the general intelligence. And that's where it's trying to emulate the human. And we're getting pretty gosh darn close, if we're not there already in certain places. And then there's the super intelligence, where AI has actually surpassed the human being here on Earth as far as being able to do certain things well. I am not optimistic in the terms of creativity and just there's some unique soul characteristics that each and every person has. Everybody has a unique characteristic, and we bring stuff to the table and we collaborate that I just don't know that AI bots and AI will do. But I don't know. I mean, what will that super intelligence look like? And we're not, the thing is AI, ChatGPT, do you know how long it took them to get 1 million users?
3 months.
So Spotify took 10 months, right? Spotify, you guys know Spotify? I'm trying to think, like music service, hopefully you know Spotify, right? It took like for Airbnb to like a couple years to get adopted, right? So it's taken time. Time to adoption for ChatGPT to get to 1 million users?
5 days.
Who said that?
Me.
You get the prize, 5 days. Yeah, 5 days. It's the it's the speed of machine. And so that's why it's so hard to predict in a year, what is that going to look like? We're going to see more, I think, into that AGI kind of realm where we have that artificial general intelligence. We'll see more of that. And then once we get into the AS, that's where it gets a little more scary and a little more science fiction-y, but it's going to come fast. And I don't know whether that's going to be a year or 5 years or 10 years. I do think it'll be within a decade.
Wow. We've got 5 minutes left, and it's going to be closing statements. So you have a question?
I do, and I'm going to be very quick and respect the doctor's time. So I have a company that I focus small business. I teach people how to scale using technology in small business. So this is probably directed at you, Brandon. You talked a little bit about how you interact with small businesses regularly. A client comes to you and says, AI, what should I do with it right now, today? Not thinking about the future, not thinking about all this risk conversation. What's the best way to leverage AI right now in a small business?
I would say it's, again, minimizing your redundant tasks, increasing your productivity, utilizing it to find ways where you might not be visible to vulnerabilities that you have, right? There's blind spots. Every business owner is good at a certain set of skills. understanding what those skills are and where your blind spots could be. That's a use for like a chat GPT. Doing market research, doing all of the things that normally take us hours or even days can be done very quickly with GPTs or with any type of AI platform. So that's what I would recommend. It's like, okay, well, what is the ultimate goal? Are you trying to save money? Are you trying to increase your productivity? Or do you just want your time back? Because that would then create the subset of technology that we would use to basically capture whatever it is that goal they're looking for.
Perfect. Thank you.
Thank you. Do you have a question?
Yes, it's kind of a quick question. I hope it is. So in 30 years, when super AI is developed, who controls the data endpoints? Who controls the frameworks when it comes to government officials using that data to make policy decisions? I guess it wasn't a short question.
Yeah, no, it's a really good question. And again, 30 years, I mean, feels like we're going to be in a whole new world in 30 years. I hope that we can democratize it because I think there's safety in that tension between the power structures. I would hope that we can keep the ability to make decisions as a corporate kind of structure between all of humanity, because otherwise you're going to get those power structures that can keep information from people. And I really think that the internet has totally democratized information. And so really I'm thinking that there's not going to be a possibility as much of monopolizing that because of all of the different companies that are racing after this and the fact that it's widely available to us. But we do need to be careful, and I think we're just going to, it's really a monopoly on truth is I think going to be the hardest thing. That's the hardest thing for me now is to understand what even truth is. And so finding ways as just a community of human beings, how do we actually know truth? And how, in the midst of better and better lies, how do we find the truth? And I think it's coming together as a community and breaking down those boundaries between us that separate us and understanding that we have to be in this together. Otherwise, we are going to come into a situation that is not going to be fun to be in.
Way to go.
So I want to just add, in an ideal world, everybody, especially if you're in Europe, they have much better data privacy protection laws. And, right now, who owns your data? The companies do. They sell it, they trade it, they know what websites you are, they sell you as a tapestry profile segment. And so they know everything when they advertise, when you're on the internet and you're on Facebook, they know to give you the ad for whoever you want to win. Like they know all this, right? And so I think your question, I'd like to see the world, when the internet first started, it was created without security in mind, and it was a little bit of the Wild West, and it opened up free flow of information without security. I personally believe that I think I own that data. I think I should own all of my personal data, and the companies should not be able to keep it. They can keep it for whatever, 10 days to do the model. They should not keep it longer, and they don't need to sell it. Like, I should be able to hold on to that, and that truth, it's going to come back to me. And if we think of like the blockchain, like you were mentioning and stuff, that's me. I own this data. You don't own it. I should get money for that. So that's a very idealistic world. It's not going to happen, probably. I have no desire that it will, but in my mind, I think that's the future of society we could aim for. So I say, as a young person out there asking this question, you're asking the right question. Help your generation figure it out, because our generation, my generation, has not done the best in that. Thank you.
All right. Wow. We got some serious passion up here. We're at the end of Q&A. Now it's time, now it's time for the panelists to tell us what they learned today. They're each experts in their field, but they learned about a bunch of other fields. They learned about your passion and the questions. So let's start with Nathan, and we'll go across.
So I think I'm more familiar with the software side. I'm least familiar with the space defense side, although I was in the defense industry. But what really struck me was the idea of time, and both of you two over there made the comment, it's saving of time for people, and that's really what AI does. But are you going to use it to be more busy? And Americans, we're so much busier. Or are we going to use it to have a 4-day work week where we get Fridays off? Fridays off, everybody.
Mr. Passionate Programmer.
Yes, and so first of all, I'm so heartened by being here and seeing both the panelists and the audience thinking about these ideas in a more sophisticated way. So hooray, and that we're having this conversation, because I think that's the most important thing. I had co-written a book with AI, and as a result, I feel like I've become a much better writer. And obsessively working with AI over the last year, I think I've become a more critical thinker. And that's one potential outcome. And I think there is also the potential outcome of people just using it to get information. But if we help imbue people with this awareness that we can take it further, and that we can come up with ideas that are so far beyond what individuals or machines could do through collaboration, I think that's going to be an exciting world. So it's back in the hands of educators, and I'm excited that people like Dennis and this school is doing this. So thank you.
Welcome. Brandon, did you learn anything today?
Of course. So one of the things that was very uplifting to me is knowing that we do have some very intelligent things happening in the Department of Defense, and that they're aware of a lot of the vulnerabilities that you don't really necessarily get when you have topical conversations with people, or you see something on social media, people saying, Skynet's coming. It's like, yeah, maybe it is, but if we have these folks that are working diligently day in and day out to circumvent those efforts, I feel like that is something that's positive that I took away. And one thing that I wanted to leave everybody with is when you think about, time for me is the reason that I became an entrepreneur. And when I think about time, if you just look at an AI chatbot or GPT or any software that you're using that can save you 4 hours a week, there's 52 weeks in a year. That's over 200 hours every year that you can get back, that you don't have to put back into work, but you can put into meaningful things that you want to do, hobbies, other people, your community. So when you think about using AI, think about it as more, yes, I want to be more productive, but also I want to extend my meaningfulness to society in different ways. So thank you.
Okay, Christy, big aha.
Well, I have just so enjoyed listening to the panelists, listening to your questions, and I am just impacted by the fact that no one person has all the answers. We need each other. This is a conversation. So don't be intimidated by this concept of AI and feel like, oh, there's so many experts out there, that just know there's no way I could compete. Well, there's no experts. We're all in this together. We're all just learning as we go. And I want to mention as well that for me, my journey as a small business owner, much like Brandon's, was about time freedom and ability to make decisions. And in this book here, I do tell the story of Alethea and how Alethea started. And there's so many other people in this book telling their stories that are really impactful and inspiring. So I want to give away several of these books. So if you see me after, I have an amount that I can give away, and then I just want to make them really cheap. So they're $13 on Amazon. I'll give them to you for $6. I really just want to get the stories out, kind of like what we're saying here. Like, you can do it. All of us are just normal people. We're just here learning what we can, and we're just believing that we can do it. And there's no difference between any of us. You guys can become experts. You guys can learn AI. You can help regain your time and do things that are meaningful as well.
Thank you. Thank you, panelists. Today was just, I learned so much today. It was amazing. We'd like to close the show with the executive editor, Vince. Would you like to come out here and tell the world what's going on?
Well, let's give it thanks to our What a terrific discussion, and I appreciate the questions and the interest and the engagement here. I think, David, you said just to raise awareness about this stuff is very worthwhile. And to me, my takeaway is, very positive from this conversation, that maybe AI isn't as scary and negative as I thought when I first entered this room, and it actually can help make us better people if we use it right and have our eyes wide open and think critically in partnership with AI. So I appreciate the panelists bringing that message. I appreciate you being here and having a really elevated conversation about this. So thanks for being here. Thanks again to our panelists.
All right, I'd like to thank everybody for our wonderful town hall today. We do have to close. We're already offline. So we got wonderful snacks outside. You can meet the panelists. They'll be outside for anything you want to talk to them about. I know there was several people still in line, and they're still here for their questions. They do have to leave by, was it 12:30, 1 o'clock? 1 o'clock-ish? 12:30. So be stingy with your time. All right, well, thank you so much. I look forward to another event like this. See you later. Thank you.